I want to be very, very clear and categoric because when I have been on national television, there have been restrictions of the laws of libel and defamation. I'm well aware of all my personal exposure to any suit that may be brought by any person to me. For ease of reference for any suit that will follow this statement, I wish to say I'm available Tony Gashoka, P.O. Box 50705 00200 Nairobi, Kenya. My Twitter handle is @Tony Gashoka. And I wish to say today, in no unequivocal terms, the political person behind the agro-leasing scandal that has lost Kenya more than $5 billion is a man by the name James Bond. James Bond is a code name that was told to me by Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi. Mr. Jimmy Wanjigi is a businessman in Nairobi who fronts his businesses by a company called Kwacha Holdings Limited, which was a company he inherited from his family. Mr. Wanjigi began his early business when he was stationed at Harambee Plaza here in Nairobi in the early years. Mr. Wanjigi was then to form political and business relationships and partnerships with the then Director of Intelligence, Brigadier Boynet, through an extortion ring around what was known as the Asian Mafia in Kenya, including specifically those who were called the G7, namely Havinder Sethi, people like Havinder Sethi, people like the late Sunil Bihal, and many others. They began an extortion ring, which was to be able to bring into enrichment Mr. James Bond and Jimmy Wanjigi on two fronts. One, money was paid for silence and protection. But on the second hand, information was gathered for blackmail. That money and that information for blackmail was to be handed over by Jimmy Wanjigi to the then Vice President, George Saitoti. George Saitoti, a political ally of Jimmy Wanjigi, was to become his new political godfather for more than 1 decade. And during that period, George Saitoti, accused as the chief architect of Goldenberg, was able to get away with the accusations of Goldenberg. But he did not get into agro-leasing himself. What he did was provide the political cover for Mr. Wanjigi. Many casualties in this country have feared to name this man. This man has never been seen in KANU politics of the past. He was seen as he was a Saitoti ally. After the death of Saitoti, he mysteriously entered to the Jubilee Political Alliance politics. And as a consequence, he has exposed the president and the deputy president and the entire Jubilee government to ridicule and, in fact, to intense public scrutiny over the will to fight corruption. So it must be said here and this day and today that I have said, and I'm willing to appear in any forum, that during the tenure of his uncle as PS in the Treasury, Magari, Mr. Wanjigi was able to orchestrate and put together a web of political and financial conspiracy that included the Kamani brothers and Kamani family and people like Arura Pereira, together with political godfathers, to create what we now know as the agro-leasing ghosts and the agro-leasing scandals. I can no longer remain silent as the anti-corruption graft body in Kenya self-destructs and disintegrates in internal wars funded by the monies of corruption. Secondly, as Parliament, our watchdog of the people itself, is consumed by allegations of internal corruption and will be unable, in fact, not credible enough to be able to have the importance of public confidence in trying to address this menace.